And it was based on research where he looked at innovation in the 19th century and how had America got ahead, and what he found was a lot of it was people building up a deep expertise in what they were doing. And if you look at Germany, Germany has a lot of great world-class Mittelstand companies. They're not global multinational, well, they're actually global, but they're not huge companies. But what has happened is that over the years they have developed a level of expertise that nobody can follow them. They've been doing something, or they're in a region that has been building or making something for hundreds of years.
That's right.
And they've got to the stage where they're just so far ahead of everybody else. You look at the size of the niche that they're operating in and the potential profit and what you would need to take it over. It's just not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
You just leave it to them. So that idea of kind of building up the expertise over time is one that really does work.
And probably that apprenticeship journeyman mentality has helped
absolutely
fuel that, huh?
But I remember seeing recently a documentary, it was about the Mughal Empire, but it was looking at gunsmiths, Indian gunsmiths today, and they can make a gun without actually measuring it.
Look at what? Gunsmiths?
Gunsmith.
Where?
Gunsmith in India.
In India.
And they were making basically what looked like a musket, but they didn't have to use any of the measuring devices that we do, because these guys have been making them for hundreds of years and doing an apprenticeship, and they just got so good at it. This kind of stuff you would need to measure, they can do just by looking at with their eyes, just sight measurement. So I think when human beings do something for long enough, they get very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of things that really the best way to learn them is to do them. It's not a puzzle that you need to sort out. If you do it and you keep on doing it and you reflect on what you're doing so you improve what you're doing,
mm-hmm.
that's the way to learn.
Mm-hmm. So you think a lot of the business here has been attracted by the educational system?
It has been the two things that we have...
Tax and business?
Well, there are three things we sell ourselves on to multinational companies. A young educated workforce, the tax, and membership of the European Union. Now, what brings them in the first place is obviously the tax, but the tax on its own will not sustain a business unless you have really bright people who can work in it. You're not going to get it. And I think we have a good education system. It could always be better, but we have a decent education system, particularly I think at primary level.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you the pool of talent. And then membership of the European Union has opened up markets across Europe for us. And there would be a fair level of expertise in Ireland now as to how you market across the European Union, or how you market across the European Union and the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
So they're tied together.
So go to the primary education. I guess primary education would start with preschool.
Our preschool system is actually underdeveloped. Primary school really starts... I started in primary school at 4, but I think the average now is 5 years of age. Every child goes to primary school. It is, as I said, I think it works mainly because of the quality of the teachers. We have really good teachers, which is assured by the fact that if people are recruiting them from the Middle East and Scotland, they're going to be good.
Right. Real quick, just to stop you. So if in the United States, it's estimated about 50% of the teachers come from the bottom 25% of a university cohort. So if that were the case in Ireland, do you think everything would be different then?
I think it would absolutely be different. I mean, to me, the key thing is we do have a problem now with teacher supply, mainly in second level. But the key thing, you need really bright people in teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about it, our class sizes can be large. You could have a class of up to 30 pupils. Now, if you've got 30 pupils, one with special needs, you need to be fairly intelligent just to manage that class, to ensure that you know who's learning, who's not learning, who needs a little bit of help here. You need bright people to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, up to now, we've been able to attract those bright people.
Mm-hmm. So they start in preschool, which isn't under your
No.
But the government has a preschool program.
The government funds some preschool, but we don't have the kind of well-developed, totally regulated system that you would have, say, in Sweden. We've only started funding preschool, I would say, in the last 10 years.
Do you think that's a good investment?
I think it's a good investment, but I am not persuaded that preschool is the be-all and the end-all of everything to do with education. There is a view that the more money you put into preschool, the less you need to put in later on.
Right.
Or that every investment in preschool develops a massive return. I mean, I've always seen that figure. For every dollar you put in, you get a $7 return. I'm not so sure that that is actually the case. No, I would say that because obviously my concern is primary school and I'm trying to get a bigger share of the budget for us.
Mm-hmm.
I think we underspend in the primary sector relative to other countries. I think the United States, for example, would spend more than us. And I have the figures and I can send those on to you.
I would, yeah, that'd be good.
But to me, the key thing for the education system is the quality of teachers. If you've got good teachers, you get good results.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't got good teachers, no matter how much money you put into the system, you're not going to deliver the results.
Yeah.
And I mean, my own management philosophy here is to hire the brightest people you can, give them as much autonomy as you can and back them. And I think that approach works with teaching as well. Get the best you can in. Don't try and solve every problem for them. Let them use their intelligence to solve the problems, and they're pretty good at it. I mean, if you look at the level of change in the Irish system, it's been quite extraordinary over the last 10 years. And it's been extraordinary for a number of reasons. Firstly, there's been a massive demographic surge. The last time we had a papal visit, there was a population surge immediately after that. The papal visit, the Pope came to Ireland.
Okay. Yeah.
And we have this new young generation, and they were called the Pope's children.
Mm-hmm.
The Pope's children have gone on to have children. So that's the demographic bulge we currently have going through the primary school system.
So the Pope actually affected that?
Well, whether it was the Pope or it was the timing of his visit, I don't know.
Yeah,
but something went on.
Right.
Population surge. Those people, most of whom now would be kind of around 36, 37, now have kids. And their children are hitting the primary school system. They've gone through the primary school system. I think we'll have 1, maybe 2 more years of the surge, and then it starts to hit second level. But there's been an extraordinary growth in the number of children attending primary school.
Now,
I think there's about 555,000 or so, and I can get you the statistics on that as well.
there's less now.
No. That's what we have at the moment.
Okay.
I think we're just about at the peak of the population surge. That's created problems. It's been, I think the government's been put to the pin of its collar to build schools, particularly during the fact that we had a major recession during that. So that's been a challenge. But we've also had the challenge of immigration. We have gone from being a country that was 95% Catholic, 95% Irish, to one where now you'd have somewhere between 50 and 20% of the population were not born in Ireland.
Has the government has they allowed immigration based on merit?
No,
or
actually,
just anybody can come in?
No, most of the immigration has been due to the fact that we're members of the European Union.
Oh,
and a lot, yeah. And when an economy booms, we've had a lot of immigration from Poland's been the single largest.
They're pretty educated.
Oh yeah, I mean, superbly educated. Actually, one of the things that we got was this educational bonus, because most of the people that we have coming into the country had very good educations.
And in the U.S., most of the people coming in the country from other countries don't have very good education. How do you think that affects it? It has a lot to do with culture.
It has a lot to do with culture, but if you look, most of our immigration has actually been Northern European or Eastern European. So a lot from Poland, Czech Republic, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania.
High education level.
High education levels. I mean, I remember talking to Irish policymakers in Forfos, which is our kind of policy institute, and they would be chatting with the person going around with the tea and coffee to find out they had a master's. Now, people arrive in, they work at that level for a while, but once they get their feet and their English improves, they start to use their education.
So this definitely has a positive return on the education system.
I think it has a positive return on society as a whole. Now, its impact on the educational system, I don't have any evidence for, but I would think it would be positive. And the other thing is, when those people have kids, because they've had an education themselves, they will be focused on education.
So then, if the majority of people were coming in didn't come from well-educated countries.
Now, we've also though had, we had up to quite recently, a reasonably significant refugee immigrant. There the education levels would not be as high. But overall, and this is something most Irish people don't realise, overall the great mass of our immigration has actually been from within the European Union.
Mm-hmm.
But it does mean we now have a society where somewhere between 15 to 20% of the population were not born in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
You have children arriving in whose first language is not English or Irish. But I think, to be honest, our integration of immigrants has been much smoother than elsewhere. And I think a large part of that has been that primary schools are welcoming and inclusive environments, and teachers have dealt with it very well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, we haven't had the kind of issues that have occurred elsewhere. There hasn't been kind of a backlash to immigration that you've seen elsewhere. Now, it could be there underneath the surface, but I haven't seen any real evidence of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, it doesn't hurt that the Polish and the Irish are probably the two most similar cultures on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I think a British historian one time said that the Poles and the Irish had a taste for poaching, political plotting and papism.
Mm-hmm.
So we share a lot in common.
Yeah, and they've also been persecuted, right?
I've read the history of Poland, and it's makes ours look like fun.
Right. Okay, so you have a kind of underfunded preschool program, which then start primary school. The kids start between 4 and 5 years old.
Yeah.
Most of them 5 or 4.
Most of them 5. It used to be 4 and 5. Depending on the local school, and they would be finishing up generally around 12.
So that would be something like kindergarten in the U.S., right?
Yeah, we would have. Now the terms have changed. Junior and senior infants. We used to have babies and high babies.
Right, junior and senior infants program. And that's just so I get this idea. The 9 to 1:45 is about their time.
Yeah.
Okay.
9 to it depends. Particularly for pupils that age, and it would be very much play-based learning. It's starting. It would be very much kind of kindergarten model.
167 days a year. Is that right?
I think so.
Okay. That's rather low. Do you think that's too low, or do you think they need to be doing?
Firstly, I'm a believer that children should have a childhood.
Okay.
And that they need to learn outside of the school, and that unstructured play is actually very useful for them.
I agree too.
So I don't think it necessarily, I'll be honest with you, I came through that system. It didn't seem to negatively affect me, and certainly when I was interfacing with peers from outside Ireland, I didn't feel the disadvantage. I do think there's a tendency to try and cram too much into education. Children need unstructured play. They need to kind of be able to wander around in summertime, and I'll be honest with you, there are a lot of things that I remember from my childhood which weren't in the classroom. I went to college when I was roughly about 16, and that's not a good idea. If you go in at 4, you could be coming out at 16, 17. You need a little bit of time to mature before you go into a college environment.